I met Amanda at Video Marketing World. So shout out to Scott Simpson, who is the CEO of Video Marketing World. It's a great virtual conference this year that's all around creating videos and making a business out of it. So please help me in welcoming Amanda Horvath. Hello, everyone. Hello, LinkedIn. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live show. Thank you for tuning in. I have an exciting show for you today. And we're going to talk all about video and how we overcome our anxiety around video. So let's get started. I am going to introduce you to my amazing guest, Amanda Horvath. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably should have checked with you before I started. But before I bring her on, just a little background. I met Amanda at Video Marketing World. So shout out to Scott Simpson, who is the CEO of Video Marketing World. It's a great virtual conference this year that's all around creating videos and making a business out of it. So please help me in welcoming Amanda Horvath.
Hello, everyone. And yes, you did say it right. Good job.
Yay. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And hello, everyone. I will be reading the chat as well. So
good. Awesome. And but tell us a little bit about yourself, Amanda. I mean, I kind of went through your YouTube channel, but I would love for you to share with everyone.
Yeah, totally. So I ran a video marketing company for 6 years. I started it out in Los Angeles, where I went to film school, did that whole thing, and then moved to Austin, Texas about 3 years ago, which is actually pretty much where I was raised. I got here when I was 9, moved away for a while. And during that time of running this business, I had so many different clients and was able to really climb my way up the chain and work with a ton of top-notch businesses and world-class entrepreneurs, including top influencers that you would definitely recognize, but I don't like to throw out big names.
You can name drop.
Technically, I'm not allowed to, apparently. But so anyway, during that time, what I really recognized was that everyone was still kind of figuring out this video thing. Every single year, it would be like, this is the year to do video. Get on, make it happen, make it happen. And it's just been this kind of slow crawl to people really getting on with video and diving into it. And we're definitely going to be diving into that a lot today because it's really the emotional component and the fears associated with video.
Absolutely.
But what I also found was that when I was working with these top influencers, like even they didn't know what they were doing. And the only thing that separated them from any other clients was that they were just staying consistent and they were willing to fail before they would actually become good at it. And so I saw everything for the last 6 years when I was running the business and was like, you know what? This is an amazing opportunity for someone that has no online presence to really step up and make a name for themselves starting from scratch. And I kept telling clients hey, you should really get in on this consistent video thing. Let's make this thing happen, And over again, it was like I had collected all of this knowledge throughout the years, but they didn't really see the knowledge that I had collected. And they just kind of saw this blonde hair, blue-eyed girl. And it's like, shut up and hit record. That's what you're being hired for, right? And so what I decided was, you know what, if no one's willing to pull the trigger on the video strategies that I have, that I know for a fact will work, then I will pull the trigger on my own brand and show how to launch your online presence with nothing but video starting from scratch. So about 2 years ago, I started my own YouTube channel where I help entrepreneurs leverage the power of video without breaking the bank or taking up tons of their time. And that has been super fun. And not only has it been fun, but it's entirely changed my life and business. And now I want to empower other people to really step into their power and say, yes, I have a message to share with the world and I'm ready to get it out there. So I create video systems now via online courses that people can just implement and learn how to do video on their own so that they're not having to spend tons of money or time trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. And so much of, we're in the same business, right? We both love to encourage people to get on video, right? Me on LinkedIn, you on YouTube, right? And, I think that's the biggest block to doing video is, I think, the fear of, just like public speaking, the fear of being on video, right? So today, for everyone that's tuning in just now, we're going to talk all about overcoming anxiety of video. And just to go back,
such a thing.
No kidding. So one of the things that I really enjoyed about kind of looking through some of your YouTube videos is you have a great segment in there around how to define your on-camera personality. Right? Even for me, that's one of the things that people always ask me, like, how do I be different? How do I stand out amongst a sea of other creators or a sea of other IT executives or whatever my expertise is? What is your advice around defining your on-camera personality, Amanda?
Yeah. And just to give you a quick shout out, I saw your presentation at Video Marketing World. She was awesome. Everything that she talked about, I was like, yes, yes, yes. Like, this is so good, so real. And I'm all about all platforms of video too, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. I think they're all stepping stones to maybe eventually getting on YouTube. So just to clarify that. But one of the things that you called out in your presentation is one thing that I very much resonate with, and what I share with my audience as well, is that you are an individual. You have these different sides of yourself, and you're not just like one specific expertise and that's all that you do. So you really, when you're defining your on-camera personality, everyone, when they first start, they feel like they need to be this buttoned up version of themselves. They're sitting there and they need to be perfect and they look like a camera, they're talking to a wall kind of thing. And it's really about getting to know yourself from a third perspective. So like from an outside perspective, because we live in our own bodies, right? We look in the mirror, but even the mirror isn't necessarily like a reflection of yourself. So with defining your on-camera personality, I actually give a couple of steps before you even get on camera to really getting started and getting comfortable. Because y'all, I started, and I say y'all because I'm from Texas. I apologize.
I say y'all, and I'm from Canada.
I love that. I love that. So when I was first starting, I was terrified, and I so get the feelings. Like, I would sit down in front of the camera and my heart would be beating so fast that you could hear it through the microphone. And it was so embarrassing. And it was like, I felt like for whatever reason, I should be able to do this. But there's a big difference between you actually knowing how to get on camera and then actually doing it. So it's completely normal for you to feel the way that you are feeling. So I just want to throw that out there first. So the 3 tips that I have for you, the first is to, and this is kind of a weird one, but it really does work, is if you just stand in front of the mirror and you just start talking to yourself, okay? And start looking at your reflection almost as like another person standing in front of you, and just talk about your day, move around. At first, you're gonna feel really weird. You're gonna feel really like self-conscious. You're gonna become aware of things that you have never really recognized before. And then you get to really see into your own eyes and really like pick up some, just some elements of yourself. And it's a really powerful exercise in general. But that would be my first one.
Awesome. Amazing tip.
Yeah. And then the second one is to do voice memos. So I think one of the things that people really struggle with when they're first getting on camera is that feeling of time running. So like you hit record and you just got to talk so fast and you just got to get the words out, and like you run out of breath, and then you just, right? Like, and your heart's beating so fast and all of these things are happening. And so when you start with your voice memo, there's several things that happens. First off, you're going to get used to that time running in the background, and you can learn to be okay with silence. So I love to do this whenever I'm driving in my car, whenever I'm just like rambling and want to get ideas out. Like I'm a very much an external processor. So it's really helpful to be able to do it from that standpoint too. But you hit record and you just start talking in your normal voice, and then try a couple of different things, like listen back to it. And you might realize I sound super monotone. Like I need to add those up and downs. And then you can start changing your voice around and getting more excited, or like, let me think about that for a second. And you recognize those pauses that you have, the natural, kind of cadence that you have. So that's a really, really powerful exercise for sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then you actually like get on camera for the first time. And one of the things that this video that Fanny is talking about, I have all of this written down in that video. But one of the things I recommend is when you are very, very first starting, don't try to release your first video. Just get comfortable with you having a relationship with the camera, you talking to the camera, because it's not that comfortable when you first start. But so the recommendation that I have is to do a home tour of your house. And you can get really fun with it. You can kind of mix things around. It's like, what's up, y'all? Cribs MTV style. We're about to take a tour of this home. Let's go, or whatever it is. And you can just, as you slowly start to practice that, knowing that you're not going to release it, you might break through a barrier of worrying what people think. And once again, you get that third party perspective of yourself. And you start to kind of pick up on the things that you like, the things that you don't like. You keep the things that you like, and you get rid of the things that you don't like, and you move on. So, and then otherwise, the tip is just consistency.
I love it, Amanda. And I think that's one thing that I just love collaborating with other creators is there's just so much creativity out there, right? And everything can apply to everyone. So one advice might stick with one person, and then another advice might stick with another person. And I always tell people, like, even that conference that we were both at, right? I share that you can combine your expertise with your interests and hobbies and all kinds of things, your strengths and your values. And so whatever it is, find something that works for you. Right? Just stick with what works for you and find folks that resonate with your style. Right? And these are all great tips. Like, these are amazing tips. I love that. And I haven't even heard those before. I love it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I think also like what's cool about the whole personality thing, like you're saying, like your different interests and all these things, there is no one out there that is as unique as you are, right? Like you are unique. You have something valuable to share. And so when you see yourself on camera, you're trying to kind of be someone that you're not. But the best thing about video is you can't be anyone but yourself. Yeah. You could be yourself trying to be someone else, right? You could be your nervous self, but slowly over time, those layers start to strip down, and then you truly start to show up as your authentic self.
Absolutely. Sharon in the comments said, how to get over, I don't like how I sound in front of the camera. I become incredibly self-conscious. What would you say to that, Amanda?
Totally. So first off, the sound of our voices, whenever we hear ourselves, it's actually a distorted sound because we're hearing it like echoing within our bodies. And so that's why the voice memo recordings is so huge, because you start to get used to that, how you sound from that third party perspective. It's kind of like a lot of people don't like their profile view, like the view of themselves, because you don't ever see that. And it's just getting used to it and getting confident with it over time, and knowing that it's okay to start insecure on camera, and that you just trust that you will get there with practice. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have a follow-up, hit us up for sure.
And one thing I kind of work on is, I don't like how I sound. I think I sound like I have it's allergies, like it's Texas. I always feel like I sound stuffed up. But at the same time, I think what helped me get over how I sound is I kind of concentrate on the content. What can I say to be of value to the audience? And then my whole focus shifts to focusing out, which is what value can I create for the audience? And if I sound nasally, I sound nasally, and then it is what it is, right? And instead of that focusing in, I found that helps for me anyways.
It definitely helps for sure.
So, I mean, that kind of leads me to the next question, right? Because a lot of times I think when we're creating content, we feel this sense of like we're an imposter. Like, who am I to put content out there? Who am I to be an expert in something or offer advice in something? What's been your journey around that, and how do you overcome that, Amanda?
So much to overcome imposter syndrome, guys. I talk about this all the time because it's such a real thing. And I think the power really comes in recognizing that just because you have imposter syndrome doesn't mean you can't push through it. Doesn't mean that you can't take action at the same time. So one of the quotes that I heard that really clicked in with me that I want to pass to you guys is this concept that overwhelm and action can exist at the same time.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that so good? So anytime you're finding yourself overwhelmed or like you're feeling down about yourself, you don't feel like you have something valuable to share, and you're getting in this negative spiral that we all get into, who are you to do video? No one cares what you have to say. You don't have anything, whatever it is that the voices are telling in your head. I'm too ugly to do video, right? Like, they're all limiting beliefs. But if you can shift from saying, okay, I see you, limiting beliefs. I hear you, but you know what? I'm going to take action. And that's like, you push past it, you take action. And every single time you take action, you're proving to your subconscious, nope, these are not accurate thoughts that you're having. And on that same note, I think another positive thing is to answer the question. So like limiting beliefs that pop up, who are you to do video? Who are you? Answer the question.
I love it. Like, you can say that in your voice memo.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm Amanda Horvath, and I have a voice to share with the world, and it's gonna get out there, and it's gonna make it happen, and blah blah blah. And I think another big one, I talk about this all the time, so I could go on and on days for this one, but we tend to discount the value that we have because we're so familiar with it. And I think one of the ways to truly recognize your value, look back at where you were 5 years ago and look at all the things that you've learned throughout that time. There's so much. There's milestones that you've overcome. There's problems that you've pushed through. There's issues, all that kind of stuff. And then you really start to say, okay, actually, I do have something valuable to share. And I think that even if I'm not an expert at what I'm doing, by me not sharing the information that I have, I am hurting the person that was where I was 5 years ago. Like, you're literally holding people back.
To the world, actually, because we all have such unique value. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you're the only one that can truly share that. And I think one of the things, and and we'll kind of talk about this, but I'm giving like a free video class next Wednesday that I would love for y'all to come to. But one of the things that I talk about in that is it's specifically all about overcoming self-doubts. But it's really crazy when you really think about the fact that this is the first time in history that every single person out there can hop in front of the camera, using their phone, right? And record history. Yes. And yet, when you look back at history, it's just stories of white men with money, fame, and success, right? Yeah. And so we inevitably think that our stories aren't valuable because in the past they weren't told. So anyway, I could keep going on and on about this.
Absolutely.
Push through, make it happen. And you aren't alone.
Even just like quick shout out to one of the commenters in there, Chuck. Chuck was somebody that I worked with, and he is in the IT industry. And for the longest time, there's so much value. Like, he had decades of experience around IT and so much knowledge to share, so much experience. But even then, you get used to presenting in a corporate setting, but then it's a whole other thing holding up the camera and then recording. But now, through consistency and repetition, like, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, he just like pops up on my feed and shares about various IT events, and it's all about that consistency, right? And repetition. And Sean,
knowing that you have to be bad before you can be
yes.
good, you know, and like accepting yourself and loving yourself through that process.
Sean Cannell had a great quote. Sean Cannell, for those that don't know, another great YouTube creator. And he says, "Let your time in obscurity prepare you for popularity." And I love that.
So good.
Right? Like, I was like, yes, for sure. So know that you'll be bad and be okay with that. And then from there, move on and grow, for sure. And you mentioned,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and you mentioned one thing about, you know, so long the news channels and the, you know, broadcasting history has been a certain demographic. And I think now anybody can create content. And if it's of worthwhile value, then that you will find your followers and you will find your audience. But I still feel like what's missing here is, I really think we need more female content creators. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on as well, is just like, you know, why do you think there are not more female content creators? There's tons of male content creators. Where do you think that stems from?
Yeah, I get chills whenever like people talk about it, because it's so real and it hits so close to home. Yeah. I think that, and I'll get a little woo-woo for a quick second here. Hopefully that's okay with y'all.
I love being woo-woo. My audience understands that. They know that.
I think that generally speaking, women have more generational trauma to overcome than men. And there's just more limiting beliefs that are built into our subconscious mind, and including minorities too, you know, like it's women, it's minorities. And by the way, like white men, I think you do get beaten down too much. So I have nothing but love for white men.
Yeah,
exactly. I think it's less of a white men needing to lift up women and more of women needing to step into their power and say, you know what? I do have value. I'm not going to discount the skills that I have. Yes, I'm a badass mother. Sorry, I don't know if I could actually say that. But I am
no censorship here.
I am an awesome mom, and I have done this for X number of years, and I have so much wisdom to share. Like the amount of people that say like, oh, I'm just a mom, you know, and it's like, no, you have so much to offer in so many different areas. And that's just one example, right? So the amount of times that when I was running my video marketing company, I would do, say, like a conference video, for example, and I had to get really good at going up to strangers and saying, hey, can I get a testimonial of you? And always I would go up to females, and it was like clockwork every single time. I would go up to like a couple, let's say, and the girl, every single time she would say, I won't do it, but he will. He's good. I don't need to be on camera. And I would like encourage her and talk her through that moment. I'm like, no, we need more females on this. We need to show that females were here too, you know, or whatever. So I just think it's something to pay attention to, and don't just think, okay, I don't have something valuable to share. Like really just push yourself one step further. And remember, look back at where you were 5 years ago and see the value, and recognize that because our stories haven't been told in the past as much, it doesn't discount the value of them. It's just that they weren't the priority story that got recorded because it was so much work to record stories. But yeah, you're holding the person back behind that's like 5 years behind you if you don't share your story.
Yeah. And I really do agree that, like, I think a big part of it is also us empowering ourselves, right? Growing up as a Asian female, like I was told to be quiet and like, oh, you know, good girls don't speak up. Good girls stay quiet and then only speak when asked a question. I mean, that's just like some of the beliefs that I had as a child. And so it took a long time. And finally, in the working environment, when I was a consultant, if I didn't talk, I wasn't going to get paid, right? You get paid for giving advice. And And only then, like, it was a slow process of finally finding my voice. And that's why even with content creation, I think whether you end up staying with content creation or not, I feel like content creation helps us find our voice and find our power. Would you agree, Amanda? Like,
oh my goodness. I talk about video as a self-development journey more than anything. It isn't about video. It's about you, once again, stepping into your power and saying that my message matters. I have something to share. And it's those, when you get on camera, the problem with video, or really the opportunity with video even more so, is you get on camera and it is a physical representation of all of your insecurities coming out. Right?
No doubt. No doubt.
You look at it and you're like, okay, you judge yourself for how you look, you judge the way for how you sound, you don't feel confident in your expertise, and all of these things start to pop up. But as you continue doing video and you sit down and you sit with the fear and you push through that fear, you come out so much stronger on the other end. And it's not about, and that's what attracts an audience. And I'm sure you would agree too.
Yes.
Like it's you start here, your video is crappy.
Yeah.
You release another one. You release another one, you release another one. That transformation, people see it and they're like, ooh, I want that. I want that confidence.
Yeah.
So,
and like Brene Brown always, the power of vulnerability. And I have a hashtag that I use that I say, like, hashtag do it scared. Do it scared. Just, my heart still beats every time, right before a live session. I'm like, we were like behind in the green room and we're like, okay, I got to turn on the video. Check the sound, check the light.
I agree. Mine does too.
But there's a thrill to it also. And this like kind of exhilaration. But just shifting gears a bit, I see in some of the comments, just some of the mechanical side of it. Brian Morrison, hey Brian, was asking, he said, Amanda, you have a great camera. What kind of camera do you have?
So I use a Panasonic GH5 and I love this camera. It's a perfect like run and gun type camera. I come from a video background, so like I had the gear from that, but it's still like a, not terribly expensive compared to some, but I have it connected to my computer through what they call a cam link, which allows you to have an external type webcam. So yeah, that's my cam.
There you go, Brian. And Teresa was saying, how often do you think you need to post? It's taking over my life.
It should not take over your life.
She says, I'm more comfortable than most on camera, so I can't imagine others. But yeah, like we talked a bit about that. Like, how do we overcome being overwhelmed by video? Right?
Yes. So first off, to answer your question about that, like having a strategy, one of the reasons why I ended up starting my YouTube channel was I was looking around and I was like, I had figured out what worked and what didn't work with video. And yet everyone was just throwing darts in the dark, right? Create a video, release it here, do whatever. And it was like, and they would pay me, people would pay me thousands of dollars to come in and film a video for them. And I would tell them, hey, like, I don't think this is the video you want to film. Like, what's your strategy for getting it seen? How are you getting it out there? And that's when they would be like, shut up and do your job kind of attitude. They wouldn't actually tell me that, but that's the whole like,
we can read body language,
blue-eyed girl kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm super big on strategies, and like in my program, I dive into 3 main strategies, and I'll give you guys the tips right now. Yeah. So basically, like, you have different tier levels depending on the budget that or not the budget, sorry, because that's more of a gear thing and you could do it with nothing but your phone, but the time that you're willing to spend. I think that really dictates your strategy. So you either are doing like Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, LinkedIn Live, if you're lucky enough, like Fanny, to have access to that. You start there. That's the lowest barrier to entry. It's scary, right? It can be kind of scary, but you're not having to edit. You're just showing up. And it's the easiest one to stay consistent with. Instagram stories kind of falls into that categories, which I think we're going to get to a little bit later on. But I think that's more of like a additional strategy rather than the main strategy. And then you have like pre-recorded content that you're releasing on like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And I think people get too complicated about it. They think like they have to be this unique video every single time. But if you just start sitting down in front of your camera and filming simple videos, then those work actually better than the majority of videos. It's just about consistency on a platform. And when you stay consistent on one platform, you will get feedback, and you'll see, oh, these kind of videos performed better. People are telling me they like this. I'm going to create more of this. Ooh, really don't like creating those kind of videos. But it's when you're like randomly creating content all over the place, that's when it feels like video doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Then the final strategy, just to give you guys quick, is eventually you do want to get on YouTube because it is a search engine. So it's not like with all the other forms of content, you're running on the hamster wheel creating content. So like you said, like how much am I have to create? I'm burning out, right? It's like, can you create a strategy that can be sustainable for your lifestyle? And how can you make content that will work for you for years to come, rather than running on that hamster wheel? And that's really where YouTube comes into play. But I don't recommend starting there. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. And I'll never forget one of Scott Simpson's slides. So again, Scott Simpson is the CEO of Video Marketing World, where Amanda and I met. He says that he's had clients that created content. I don't know, they created like 20 videos and then stopped for like 9 months. And during that time, during those 9 months, it was still generating revenue for her because people were, so she had a service of like lice removal. Oh my gosh, right? Like, are we itchy yet? And, but think about it. If you have it, you're going to Google it and look up how to, remove it. And so because YouTube is a search engine, you're searching for that. And so for 9 months, she didn't create content. But even throughout those 9 months, it was generating revenue for her because she was selling products through it. And people were still finding her videos because it was evergreen. So I get it. I just haven't really totally got onto YouTube, but it's definitely a place I think that needs to be developed over the long term.
Yeah, but LinkedIn, I mean, what you're doing on LinkedIn is so great. And I tell people, like, between Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, where should you start? LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's epic.
I love it.
So the bar is so much lower than any of the other platforms. And so if you're thinking about LinkedIn, I would highly recommend it.
And you really get to know your audience on LinkedIn. I think everybody is an actual face and name and, a job description or a job title. At least you know what kind of industry they're in. So then it becomes like you can really nurture the types of audience that you want to attract and build a relationship around on LinkedIn.
And I love it too, because it takes out the question of, am I doing this for business or am I doing this for my personal? It's like, no, it's the same thing. Like, it's one together. It's your profile,
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and even kind of building on Teresa's question around, there's so much that we could do. And sometimes for long-term kind of content creators, like, how do we overcome burnout? And even for me, like, I think I hit one of my lows the other week. And that's why I got to that music tip, right? But how do you overcome burnout around creating videos all the time?
Burnout is so real. And people are starting to talk about it. It is coming up more and more. And I think, like, I did a video actually every 6 months, I like to do like here's what's happening in my life, because like I'm kind of to a certain extent showing what's possible if you start launching your online presence with video. So every 6 months, a year and a half, in my 1.5 year video, no joke, it was me. I was filming a video. I knew I had to film that video that day so I could get it up and out by 7 a.m. the next day. And I call up my brother and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm burned out. I have no thoughts. Like, your brain is, when you're stressed, you can't get creative and it's painful. and it's real and you're whatever. And I would encourage you all to go watch that video. It is a one take video where I'm essentially rambling about burnout. And what I talked about was that I had burned myself out because every single week, like I got into this place where I ran out of weeks ahead for content, and I was having to create on a weekly basis. And so I put my foot down. The video right after that.
Tell me where it is.
Yeah. So go to, oh, actually, yeah. Just keep going down. My YouTube journey. It is the burnout one with the mean mug face. Burnout is very real. Such a funny.
That's the ad, but yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I made the video right after that I released. I basically walked through my content plan. I was like, you know what? No more. This is not happening. I am getting to the place where like my whole thing is sustainably producing content. Yeah. And so I had to hit that point in order for it to really click. But this year I have been like 10 videos ahead because I'm like, you know what? Once a month, no matter what, I'm sitting down and I'm recording 4 or 5 videos. And every single time that I do it, I have to push through resistance to really make it happen. And I talk about that a lot on my Instagram stories. So highly suggest following me over there, Visions. And you guys can see this in real time. But if it's really like taking action when you don't need to take action so that you have it in the can and coming up with a strategy. Okay, last thing, and I'm going to plug this one more time. But the free video class that I'm giving on Wednesday, I highly recommend checking it out because I tell you guys the fastest method for producing sustainable content so that you don't burn out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always tell people like create with a purpose, right? Intentional creation. Create with a purpose to serve a certain target client, create with a purpose to serve a certain area of expertise. And I think especially the more niche you are, the more you're going to attract the right kind of clients and right kind of audience. And from there, it also kind of helps to focus us, wouldn't you say? Like if we can define our audience, define our niche, then we're not creating content around, I'm not going to create a skateboarding video or like a cooking video because I'm all around LinkedIn and video. So find your niche, find your target clients.
And especially when you're first starting too, that can be so frustrating to hear the whole find your niche thing. I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is that clarity comes with action. So if you just have a general topic that you're passionate about, and you can learn this by just, once again, looking back at your life and really reflecting upon your past and the patterns that you've had throughout your past of hobbies that you've had, interests that you've had, and different things like that. If you base your online persona on one of those, as well as like maybe some surrounding ones like we've talked about, then when you're moving forward, you have a place to grow into that. And it's exciting. You're never going to get yourself niched down into an area that like feels like you're over it. And it can kind of pivot with you over time. So I really think clarity comes with action. Choose one general topic. You'll be getting feedback. You'll start refining your message, defining your voice. And then from there, it won't be so overwhelming. So
I love it. And we're getting all kinds of comments in the feed. Michael Smith, focus on content that communicates and shows your unique value proposition. Yes, each of us has this coming out of our unique combination of our personal, community, work, and professional experience. Yep, absolutely. Chuck, trust me, I'm burned out. Don't stop. Hashtag perseverance. Absolutely, Chuck. And then, a little shout out to you, Amanda. Brian loves the whole setup, lighting, sound, all great.
I love it. Right before we were like, my lips are slightly off. Should we just go with the webcam? It's like, no, it just doesn't look as good.
We're going to go with it. Yeah. And then Sharon kind of messaged, it was the Panasonic GS5. Is that right?
Actually GH5. So there's one.
GH5. Okay.
There is an S5.
GH5. Mm-hmm.
And the big difference between them, there's a huge difference because the GH5 is very a run and gun camera. I got rid of my stabilizer. so that I shoot everything handheld because it just looks so crispy and clean within the camera. It does a really good job stabilizing things. And I think it's called the GS5. It might even be called the GH5S. But anyway, that they removed that capability, but made it a full frame camera. So anyway, just a little quick tech tip for you.
But don't ever let equipment stop you, okay, folks? Because whatever, you can do everything on your smartphone.
100%. And once, like, I am such a huge advocate for it.
And build, like Amanda said, like, have your tiers. Start with your smartphone. This is just a webcam, a Logitech HD 1080 webcam. And then go to the SLRs, the Panasonic. I've seen other creators use Sony and Canon, but just take that tiered approach. I totally agree with you, Amanda.
And if y'all just want to like not have to worry about what to buy, I can tell you guys real quick. And in fact, on my website, amandahorvath.com/gear, like I'm all about removing decision fatigue and getting you up and running as quickly as possible. And I've done the research so that other people don't really have to, because it's a pain in the butt and you end up leaving with more decision fatigue than you went in with. But in my program, the DIY Video Roadmap, I talk about there's 3 tier levels: your phone, and then the mid tier is a Canon 90D. I think that's a great camera. Or the Canon M50 is another one to look at. And then the GH5, I think, is really tier 3. So if you have like $500 to spend, the Canon M50 is a good solution. Just to throw one more out, the Lumix G7 is another really great one. So
awesome. Yeah. And then I'm just scrolling through some of the comments here.
This is so fun to see the back end of this. Like, I love this.
You like that? Yeah.
Get my hands on LinkedIn Live.
Oh yeah, look. Another LinkedIn user took me over 10 videos before I started to get somewhat comfortable. So keep at it. Keep at it. I
literally have a video on my channel that shows you the 10 videos that I recorded before I ever released my first one. And it's cringy. So I recommend checking it out.
Chuck took 54 videos. So don't let that stop you. And didn't even post it.
Go Chuck. That's amazing.
I love it.
Persistence.
Yes. Yes.
You professionals are killing me with the hardware.
People like their gadgets. They like their tools. Yeah. And one last thing, like, you actually create content for a variety of platforms. I think we talked about YouTube, but you're also very active on Instagram. But how do you show up differently on each platform, or do you stay consistent? What's your strategy around different platforms?
Totally. So I think first and foremost, you choose one platform and you get consistent on that one platform for as long as it takes. So for me, when I was starting with YouTube, it took me about 8 months of just doing YouTube. And then I would take my thumbnail and I would post it on LinkedIn and Facebook and just say, hey, just released a new video. And that was it on the other platforms, just to drive traffic back to YouTube. But it took me that long to really feel like I could handle another platform. And then when I did get there, I added Instagram. So at the time with Instagram, I was already active on Instagram stories. I totally came from the world of Snapchat, like back when that was actually a thing for millennials.
My daughter's been bugging me to get Snapchat. We'll have to have a talk offline.
I haven't, like, now I've fallen off of it because a lot of my friends fell off of it. But early on, like, I was into Snapchat. And so I got comfortable with that kind of format. But then Instagram stories was like, ooh, like Snapchat, I'm sending videos to friends. Instagram stories, it's like going out to the world. And that was kind of nerve wracking. But I was consistent on Instagram stories, and I decided, you know what, if I can just make my feed look a little bit better, like 10% better, then I think that this would be really good for Instagram. And even to this day, honestly, like, growing on Instagram these days is near impossible. It really is a pay to play.
It's very saturated.
It's so saturated. The only way that you can get discovered is through hashtags. And now technically the best practice is to only use 3 hashtags, and you're supposed to mix it into your like words. So it's not a great way to get discovered, which is why I say LinkedIn is huge. Like, I think LinkedIn is a great place to start. So that's going to be my next big platform. And what I've been doing with LinkedIn, I'll still post on here pretty consistently. And
connect with her, everyone. Amanda Horvath.
Sure. And I do post on here, like, throughout several times, but throughout the week, or at least once throughout the week, I would say. And I usually take my Instagram type post and post it on here too. And just by doing that, like, I make these micro content type pieces, like these Gary V type style, where you have the title at the top, the subtitles at the bottom, and that progress bar
right now. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Those work so well. And I actually sell a template on my website for that. That's just like $20 or whatever. So you don't have to make your own. But those, post those on LinkedIn, and they work so well. And people write me all the time. They're like, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. You're killing it. And I'm like, I'm barely posting on LinkedIn. Like, yay, glad it works.
Love it.
Yeah.
Another question we got is, any apps to suggest for getting into short length videos?
I get this question all the time. And to be totally honest, I've downloaded 1 million to my phone. I've tried to use them, and it's like the learning curve, even when they say they're going to be easy, they're not really easy. And like the workflow, if you're doing a one take quick video, then I think it works. You trim off the front, you trim off the end, you might add a couple text or whatever. But if you're doing something where you're going to have several takes, I really, really, really recommend Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. Like, I cannot recommend it enough. I think too many beginners think that I might as well just edit on my phone, and then they feel like they're doing it wrong. But in reality, you're just using limited software. So anyway, that's my little quick pitch on that. Adobe does make a $10 per month, I think, maybe, mobile app, which is Adobe Rush, which is pretty good, but I think it's still kind of limited. So once again, go to amandahorvath.com/gear, and there's like everything listed that you could possibly want in terms of like gear, including Adobe Creative Cloud.
Awesome. Yeah. For me, I think for those that are getting started, I always tell them, if you have an iPhone, then use iMovie, especially just to get rid of like the beginning and the end. Right. And, as you're reaching for the camera or something, just get rid of that part, just edit those little bits out. And then for Android, I've seen people use Filmora, I think it's called.
Filmora is good for Apple too.
So those are some apps for, I believe it was Mary Havner. You had that question. And then Chuck had a question here. Do you change up your background from time to time? I'm getting tired of my office background. What do you think, Amanda?
I love that, because so my whole thing, in order to make sustainable video content, is use the same background, the same setup every single time that you hit record, just to once again reduce that decision fatigue. And so like, I would say with changing things up, like, I have switched up mine a couple of times, just because like naturally I'll move and things kind of shift. But you could totally like redesign or add a couple new things in the background.
I'm going to zoom out for people to see our backgrounds.
I love yours.
One of the things, I've actually been thinking about redoing it, and maybe like putting a little bookshelf of like, I've seen various creators where they have a bookshelf of like their favorite knickknacks, right?
Yes.
And so I thought of that, but again, like you said, there's so many things that you can be concentrating on. I think it's just a matter of prioritizing, right?
100%.
Start with the content and the message, and then from there, everything else you can just build on that, the aesthetics of that.
Yeah, and find that one go-to set that you can use all the time. Like, I think that's such a huge tip. And then So
absolutely. So, I mean, gosh,
it's like coming right out of my head.
our time is like, it just flies by. It always flies by when I'm with folks. And I just want to kind of like see any kind of final thoughts, Amanda, before we kind of close out the show. I wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, like share with folks out there, like if they're getting started on content and video, what is the main thing that you would want to kind of leave a final thought on?
Totally. So I have a quick start guide to video that I highly suggest. It's all the content that I create, including my like paid program, which is open for enrollment right now for only 2 weeks.
Yes.
But
where can people find that? I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah. So it's
Is it your website?
It's courses.amandahorvath.com/DIY. So I'm actually doing a free class next week that I highly do recommend, since you guys are happening to get
courses.
So courses.amandahorvath.com. Here, let me even just send it to you just to make this easier. Let's see.
Can you see it on my screen here?
Okay, there you go. /DIY. So my program, I only open it up a couple times a year because I do like going through it with people in real time, because you guys get access to me via office hours, chat through your strategy. I give you a video strategy. I tell you exactly what gear, exactly how to set it up, and then like exactly how to edit, how to get on camera, how to be comfortable, find your on-camera personality. It's like really all about how to use video to get started and reduce that overwhelm and be on your way to becoming a thought leader with video. So can't recommend that enough. But also the webinar that's coming up, that's if you are kind of on the fence about the program itself. This is a free video class. And I don't know if I can add a chat I don't think I can add a chat. But if you go to Amanda, just find me on Instagram or on LinkedIn, actually. On LinkedIn, just go to my profile. One of my recent posts will have that link to sign up for that free video class. And I would say that's a great entry point, just to like, it's all about how to overcome self-doubt and really push through. And you can get like the full, like, these are the exact 4 steps, the first 4 steps that I recommend taking with video. And then, so that's it.
Awesome. And Brian says, do you get paid for promoting the companies and the stickers on your laptop? That's a good idea though, Brian.
I love that. Yeah, someone else mentioned that too. This right here is my brother's company. And he literally has
I like that.
A business
story
that teaches people how to do sticker marketing. So I love that you just said that. That's so funny. Yeah, look up Live a Great Story.
Even like my daughter, right? Like the tween, right? She's 13 and she loves having stickers on her water bottle, right? That's a thing for teenagers. And you gotta think like
too.
the branding around that is like phenomenal. Like they carry it around everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting. There's so much to it.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time, for your just energy. I knew I would enjoy speaking with you, and I do. Like, I love your energy. I love your support of other creators, and especially female creators. I really do think that we need more of those out there, and I so appreciate your time.
I appreciate yours. Like, it's so impressive the way that you've run this whole thing and everything. So major shout out. It's not easy to do, and you just make it look easy. So
it's practice, right?
It is. It's definitely practice.
You should have seen me last week. I didn't know how to turn on the audio for my promo video. So we're all learning. And I really think the audience, for the most part, is a supportive audience. I think people do want to cheer each other on and do want to support each other, and especially on LinkedIn, I feel. So for all of you out there, create content for sure.
Totally.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you and everyone.
I always want to leave you with this message. I want you to shine your light, share your gifts with the world, and share it through video. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye now.